Assalamu alaikum, good morning, and welcome to another edition of Tea, Tim Tams, and Travel with me, Nabil, from Rahala, and Elena, the Muslim Travel Girl. Good morning, Elena.
Good morning, Nabil. How are you today?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much. Week 3, and we're still surviving, so that's nice.
Mashallah, yeah.
But I think it's getting to a point where we might need a little bit of help. So I'm really excited about today's guest. We've got Sayyida Zaidi, who is here to help us navigate this very surreal situation. And Elena, how have you found it? How do you think Sayyida is going to be able to help us today?
Sayyida, mashallah, is a fountain of knowledge, may I say, as a coach, as a high performance coach and a positive psychologist. She's doing a PhD, I believe, in positive psychology. She's she's homeschooled her kids. She's traveled around the world with them. So she has so many tips for us at this time. And especially now with Ramadan coming over, I'm getting really stressed about how I'm going to manage staying at home, fasting, praying with the baby. So anything I can get my hands on, inshallah, it will be amazing. Sayyida, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to be here, and it's lovely to see you again, Elena, and to meet you, Nabil. So at the moment, I am training online. Probably like half the world at the moment, right? We're all working online. And back to homeschooling the kids, back based in London, trying to complete my doctorate and do various other things as well, some of which has been put on hold, some of which has been accelerated because of the situation that we're all in at the moment.
Yeah, fantastic. And what are your tips for surviving this time?
So I was going to start with routine, but I think the first thing I'm going to say is to be kind to yourself. I know it's really cliched and so many people are saying it, but I also know that the other side of being in this situation is that everyone thinks, okay, so I'm going to complete those courses, I'm going to study this, I'm going to learn how to do that. I wanted to learn sign language my whole life, and I've kind of like joined up a course. I've done one episode of it in 2 weeks. Should I beat myself up? Because we're in a scenario where we have a huge amount of time on our hands, but we also have a huge amount of stress, and there is nowhere to escape to. So you can't run away from your home for 10 minutes, because unless you're going out for a very specific reason, then there's a lot of challenges around that. So the question then is, how do you create that kind of mental escape? And I think being kind to yourself is the first thing. Next, I would say it's really important to have a routine. We were speaking to my son the other day, who's 14, and we said to him, what is it you want to do? And his idea of routine is getting up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and he wants to stay up until 5 a.m. And we've said, actually, that's not possible, because what is then going to happen when you've got to adjust back to real life? And so whilst it might be a nice aspiration for him to have, and it's funny, right? But I know that some people are probably doing that, getting up in the afternoon, staying up all night, but that's not good for your body. And it's actually not also good for your mindset. So a routine and sticking to that, no matter how simple it is absolutely crucial. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me if you're getting up at 5 a.m. or 9 a.m., as long as you are getting up and you have a set time and you have certain things that you're doing in the morning. Enjoy the white space that you have. Don't kind of feel guilty. And the best way for you to enjoy that is by having a routine. And whatever is the best way for you, there's so many different options available. You can have a checklist, you can have reminders on your phone, you can set yourself a list of things to do the night before, but just don't let this time just kind of run away, because we don't know whether it's going to be another few weeks or it could be until the end of the year.
Do you feel that the routine could become a little bit you could be dependent on it, but it could also become a bit fatigue-like as we go on, and the longer it goes on? So almost like pacing yourself over these next few weeks, almost thinking of it as a marathon, not a sprint. You know, cliche again, but you know, like you said, we don't know how long it's going to be going on for.
100%, and I agree with you, Nabil, and I think that what I recommend is you have your routine, work with it, experiment at the beginning. You know, if this is the first time you're doing it, you know, exactly what I said to my kids. I said, write down how you want to structure your day, test it out for a day or two, and kind of like mold and manipulate it until you get to the point where it's working for you. Then do that for a month, but at the end of the month create a new routine, because otherwise we are going to get bored and we're going to get frustrated, and you know, Ramadan is going to come in and kind of
change that routine, isn't it? It's
indeed
going to change today's routine for sure.
Exactly. And so that's a wonderful opportunity to reset, I think. Don't think that whatever it is that you're doing now, you're going to be able to do it in Ramadan. You know, I'm thinking of, I mean, my kids are teenagers now, so they're fairly kind of independent. But if you've got little ones, then, and you can't kind of put them into school or childcare or any, you have no escape. So then fasting and having to deal with all of the challenges of being in a confined space at home with the young kids is going to be something that is worth preparing for. Otherwise it's going to happen. And my biggest fear is that people are going to be thinking, well, do I have to fast, and how do I look after my kids? And really, you've got to do both.
Yeah, that's my challenge, 100%. And while you're talking, I'm like, yes, I can do that. I can start fixing my routine, because at the moment, especially for me, we moved back to the UK and we have the baby. I have no help. My routine is just basically looking after the child, nothing else. And I know during the Ramadan, I used to do so much more, and like I'm getting stressed that I'm not going to achieve any of what I used to be before. So potentially setting up a new routine and just writing a few things down to kind of like help me prepare. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's a fantastic.
And think about the things that you did before that you really enjoy doing, and bring some of them back in, because, you know, of course, no one is going to be able to do kind of tarawih inside a mosque, but there's no reason why you can't kind of, you know, 2 or 3 times a week actually pray tarawih as a family within your own home.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, we're not going to have those big feasts for iftar, and I think that in itself is a massive blessing, right? But think about how you're. I suppose everything that I'm saying is coming down to being prepared. And so if you think right now, you know, with a, maybe even if you're listening to this and you've got a couple of days before Ramadan begins, or Ramadan's already begun, just stop and think, okay, what do I want my ideal fast to look like now that I'm in control? Because usually the conversation that I'm having at this time of the year is, how do I get time off from work? How do I fast? There's no prayer room. All of those things are out of the window.
Very true. Yeah. Very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess for Muslims, it's a blessing on its own that we're kind of at home now.
It is, but sometimes we take the blessing for granted. And what that then means is that you have the 24 hours within your control. And if you just allow that to slip through your fingers, next year, inshallah, when everyone's back to work and, you know, our life is back to normal, are you going to be looking back at this Ramadan 2020 and thinking, well, why didn't I pray more? Why didn't I enhance my, why didn't I do all of my nawafil? You know, it's the simple things that actually will bring you satisfaction and joy. But also don't try and do too many, you know, because when you try and do too much, it can destroy you. And I think, for example, there will be people who have never done a khatam of the Quran and will be thinking, okay, this is my year. And inshallah it is. But if you're struggling to read, then don't make that into something that is like a noose around your neck. Do what you can, enjoy the process of doing it, and kind of set your targets so that they push you a little bit, but, you know, then also achievable. I think the worst thing we do as human beings is set ourselves up to fail.
And it's the same, it's going back to what you mentioned about being kind to yourself. And I think that's a message that doesn't actually get through enough. I think it's a message that a lot of people hear, and they think, okay, I'm good to myself, but don't really understand what that means. Because in a situation like this where we are right now, you know, escapism isn't there, and we have escapism in our normal life. Going through into Ramadan, how do you feel? Let's say there was 3 things that you could do to mentally escape from your daily Groundhog Day of going through Ramadan. What would you recommend?
So the first thing that I would say is try and kind of gain some time by yourself, ironically in isolation, when around the Salah time. And by that, what I mean is that, you know, if you can have, even if it's 2 or 3 minutes when you're not with anybody else, not with your kids, and you're just able to really sit on a prayer mat or sit anywhere in your house and just kind of be in silence and think, well, what is it that you really want from the day, from Ramadan, from life? I think it's those moments that give you that opportunity to reflect. And in that time, think of things that you desire, not things that you don't want. It's very easy to come up with lists of, oh, I don't want this and I don't want that. And then what happens to your mind is you end up starting to beat up yourself, because we're really, really good at doing that, being critical and getting frustrated with ourselves. And when you do that in Ramadan, I think you're not really taking advantage of the blessing that you have. So think about the things that you want and then turn them into prayers. Ask Allah to give you those things. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, you know, if I had a mission in life, I would say, please, everyone, stop eating trash. You know, so there's a huge advantage now because people can't easily go to the chicken and chip shops. I'm not saying don't have a treat every now and then, but I'm saying do not make your suhoor and your iftar chicken and chips or fried food. Or your body needs not just kind of mental nutrition, it also needs physical nutrition and spiritual nutrition. So think about what you're going to be consuming and plan for it. There's no excuse. You can't say I haven't got time to cook, because you have all day to plan your meals and cook, right? And then the third thing I would say is set realistic targets for what you would like your worship to be. Because, you know, I've said this already in the last 20 minutes or so, but my biggest fear is people kind of setting their aspirations so high that they end up then not doing anything because they've gone into the mode of beating themselves up and then feeling guilty. And what that all leads on to is you give up on yourself. And I don't think that Allah is creating this opportunity for us to give up on ourselves. I think, you know, the whole situation is really, really challenging for all of us. But if we view it as a reset, it gives us a lot of opportunities to think about, well, what is it that we really want to change in our lives, in our Ramadan, in our relationships, in ourselves. And so I think of it as a massive blessing that we're in this period now, which is being called isolation, but also Ramadan is coming up too.
Yeah.
And so kind of tie the two things together and think, well, how can you take advantage of both of them?
And of course, we're in Shaban at the moment, so using Shaban as your runway almost to build yourself up to the first of Ramadan. Like you said, not going in, you know, at 110% and then finishing at 20%. You want it to be the other way around. So we have those opportunities now, and I think that's great advice.
Thank you so
I mean, absolutely. And you know, so many people I know are making up their fasts or kind of like, you know, following the Sunnah fast of their Mondays and Thursdays now, which is a wonderful practice to be doing anyway. But I would also say, look, if you're a stay-at-home mum with 6 kids and you're worrying about your parents and all of these other things that are going on, even if you've got 1 kid, right, it doesn't matter. You know what your situation is. And if your situation means that you're not able to do some of the Shaban practices that you had last year, please just chill out and be kind to yourself. Even the fact that you're thinking about that in itself is a massive blessing, because it's very easy for us just to be sucked into the drama that is being portrayed by the news and by the media. I'm never going to be an advocate to say stop listening to the news, but I think it's important for us to be measured in how we consume that, so that we can control what we are listening to and enhance our own daily experience of life.
Yeah.
So don't compare yourself too much to what was happening last year or to what's happening in the news, but take each day as it comes. And you know, this, we have maybe what, 12, 13 days, well, maybe a couple of weeks left of Shaban. Use this as a time to prepare what you're going to be doing in terms of your meals, your daily routine, your exercise, everything. You know, it's just, it really is a blessed time that we have right now.
Inshallah. Well, I'm sure that that's some really wise and useful tips there. What we'll love to do is maybe share those via a link in the video bio below. And thank you very much, Saida. That's been great.
Thank you so much.
It's been really good for me as well. I need to come back and follow my own tips.
We'll hold you to it. We'll hold you to it. Well, thank you so much, Saida. That's been great. Thank you, everybody. Remember, you can enter our daily competition at rihala.com/T. So feel free to do that, subscribe, and follow us as well. And inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.